Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're tackling something everyone likes to do, which is going to be the new evolved Pridwin tier list here. And unlike other places, we don't just go over the tier list and regurgitate nonsense.
We don't do that here.
We like to compare it to our own thoughts and the own tier list we've made. We've done this beforehand with the original launch of Etheria Restart back when Pridwin had, I think, like 27 characters in like S tier, tier 0, tier 0.5.
Stop the cap.
And well, that's kind of nonsensical there, but let's go in here. Let's start with the new updated stuff. And if you want to check this out, they have the changelog as well, which we've probably covered a lot of this stuff. Like we had Diddy, Sonia, Valerian up there, Sonia again. Like they keep moving her up because she's, I don't know, holding the whole game hostage at this point in time. Well, let's talk about Holden first. Now we're going to be doing both generic PvE as well as PvP. Holden is basically just a god character in basically everything not named Doki Doki because he's the reason element. He's amazing in PvP, he's amazing in PvE. He's got attack down, he's got strip as an AoE, which is incredible. He's got 100% pushback, and he also has some defense breaks on a pretty hard-hitting S1. I like to build mine, if you get into the game, Bramble as well as Stride, and build them for just like 2.5k defense, around like 25,000 to 30,000 HP. Maybe put a little bit of effectiveness on him as well as some F-res, and then make sure you get that final module ability that starts with up to like 60% effectiveness as well as F-res, and it goes down by 20% per time. That's insane for Holden because it allows him to land that strip, land that attack down, and then land the effect resist down debuff on the enemies. So even though that 20% reduction in your effectiveness is happening a couple of times, you land that very powerful effect resist debuff, and it sort of just makes up for it. You put him on the artisan shell as well, and that thing just does work. It buffs his survivability, it helps him with a barrier, it helps keep someone else alive, and it gives him damage too because he is defense scaling. So for both PvE as well as PvP, this guy has been in basically everything that I've been using. I've been using him mainly shell farming in high tier shells, as well as it says here, Aurora. Terramaton, I do believe I use him there as well, and then he's amazing in PvP too. Now, sadly, if you go to generic PvE, his sister, who I was right there with y'all. I was more inclined to be wanting to use Hoyen, and I think she will be better. They actually have her listed at tier 0.5 in PvP right now, and I think she will get even better than that once we have the ability to start farming up super high tier end game gear. Because just like Holden, she has like 120 base speed, so not like super fast, but she has the ability to do tremendous amounts of single target damage, and then she has that cheat death passive as well. And what you can do with her eventually, which I think she's going to be moving up to like probably tier 0 in PvP, is you get the little Bahamut dragon shell. I forget what it's called. Something of magic. Brain fart right now. Whatever, dude. I'm not going to re-edit it. But you can get Swift Rush, Swift Raid, and Swift Strike all on that one. And that is the one that makes it so the first cooldown you use doesn't go on cooldown. So you can get 35% speed from Swift Rush, and then another 15 from Swift Raid, and then another 15 from Swift Strike. That gives you 65% speed, which is incredible. Get you a little bit of effect accuracy, which doesn't matter that much, and then a nice little 20% attack to go with that. And you will be able to use your S3, and it won't go on cooldown, and you'll be able to detonate somebody. If they try to proc you, you'll detonate them again, and then you'll be able to use your S3 again on an incredibly fast Hoyen. So I think we'll see her later in PvP. As far as PvE goes, I tried her a little bit and actually did do the reconfigure on her because she just, like it says here, that I got this one right. She's usable, but she's just not that great. She's just not that crazy. I used her in a lot of different stuff, not just, you know, Aurora, Doki, Terramaton. I've used her in basically every kind of generic PvE environment, and she just wasn't that special there, but she was pretty good in PvP, and she'll be even better in PvP as time goes on. Her one downside right now in PvP is that everyone and their brother likes to use fast speed teams with Masia, and if they outspeed you with Masia, her passive doesn't work as long as they've put a little bit of, you know, talent resources into his S3, which ignores passives. So she kind of gets dookied on in that regard. So maybe a little bit better in the future. I think so, especially once we get some really high tier end game gear for our Hoyen lovers out there. Didn't Amazing character for single target damage. If you want to just make it so he's only single target, you can bump him down to 0.5, but he's so easy to build in a lot of fights, not just, you know, in Aurora or Terramaton, but a lot of PvE fights are just, here's a couple ads, here's a single target boss, kill the boss. He's very good there. Mossy is insane there. And then Shadow Sonia, the Vengeful Thorn. My goodness, a character that is basically holding the gear economy of this game by the neck. And what do I mean by that is, well, for PvE, she allows you to basically skip some gear thresholds once you get into the later stages of the game where you hit like Hell 2, and then you try to get to Hell 3, try to get to Hell 4, and try to get to Inferno. And it's like, I'm this close. But really what I need to do is invest more into these other characters, invest more into my gear for these characters, get some better substats, spend a bunch of energy, a bunch of resources, a bunch of, you know, credits and gold and all this other stuff so I can inch my way up the progression ladder, which is fine. That's how a gacha game progression ladder typically works. However, if you have Shadow Sonia on your team, well, that progression ladder is very easy for you to do for a couple of fights out there, especially generic PvE, and Terramaton is where she shines. So what you can do with Shadow Sonia on your account is, instead of needing to gear a bunch of different characters, farm a bunch of different stuff so you can increase your substats, you just kind of scale with the HP, the inflation of that HP on these higher difficulty bosses like Terramaton, and just let her damage over time wind up and scale with the boss's health for you. And then all you really have to do is just make sure that your characters don't die, right? Put Artisan on a bunch of your characters, the shell that gives a giant barrier we talked about with Holden. Get some extra speed, get some health, get some defense. Just tank down and let Sonia sort of gear up your account by just skipping you ahead thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of energy you don't need to use, slowly gearing up. Just skip over to Hell 3, skip over to Hell 4, do that for a little bit, and then skip right to Inferno mode on Terramaton, get a bunch of crazy good DPS gear, get a bunch of crazy good shells from Inferno mode, and then you've skipped 10, 20,000 energy of farming, and you're ready to go do, you know, the highest difficulty Inferno modes much quicker on the other pieces of PvE content as well. So I would put her in like tier God, basically, because of that, and I didn't want to spend that much time on her, and she probably is dedicated in her own video just how messed up this character is and has been, and we called that out a while ago. So if you weren't here for that, you re-rolled off your Shadow Sonia account because you didn't see that video. I think only got like 5K. We were on a little break. You know what to do. You know you need to be here. Debuffers here. Holden, yes. Heinrich has been the mainstay DPS on my account, just like it says here. I can't say this is incorrect in any way, shape, or form. I don't use Mendoki Doki though, but I guess you could with some of the other debuffers like the Sleep Girl we'll talk about, who's insane. But Heinrich, his buff block and to be able to strip on everything is crazy. They have him listed as hybrid DPS, which is very important. I've seen a lot of people out there be like, how do I build my Heinrich? I'll look at their Heinrich build, and it's just speed and effectiveness. He is more than that. Put some crit chance on him, put some crit damage on him, maybe lower your speed a little bit. I've used him as my mainstay DPS for basically generic PvE everywhere. There's so many bosses that just want to spam themselves with buffs, buff block blocks, that if they get it up anyway, he takes it back off. It makes a lot of fights, the mechanics, you just turn your brain off and don't think, you don't care. There's no defense, there's no attack buff, there's no crit chance buff, there's no anything the boss is doing anymore, and he just allows you to just kind of steamroll through with him as like a sole DPS in a lot of cases. Him plus Lily, and just kind of turn your brain off, go. I think I did him, Lily, Freya, Valerian, or him, Lily, Valerian, and Dena or something. And speaking of Dena, we have the SSR version of Dena, one of the best characters, in my opinion, in the game of Kloss. The buff was great. We talked about it beforehand. I kind of left her out. I said I left her out of the previous tier list that we did a while ago because of her change from beta to now, where I didn't know if it would be better or worse. But based on how everything is going on now, the change, by the way, was like you got the speed down from completing her hacking debuff, and she didn't have the actual speed down debuff. And that was a little weird because beforehand you could use her as an extra source of speed down. Now she just has the speed down debuff, and it's incredibly powerful to just have that right off the gate. Defense break, speed down right away. Then her second turn, she takes all their their combat readiness away, pulls it to your team to your turn meter gauge. And she's just absolutely wild. On top of that, though, her own special debuff increases the damage that you're doing, not just defense break, but increases straight up damage you're doing, quite like Dena's debuff does or vulnerability does. And on top of that, it also reduces the incoming damage that you're taking as well, which is very, very, very strong when we're trying to increase not both the damage that we do in these PvE encounters, but also increase our survivability like we talked about with someone like Sonia. So she helps you hit those gear thresholds as a debuffer a lot easier. So she's insane. Lily, she deserves to be in her own tier. She's like the guardian of PvP right now, the guardian of PvE. She's like the best character in the game. We called that a long time ago. We put her in her own tier before the game even launched. If you knew to reroll for Lily because of us, hey, you're good. You're good to go there. Same thing with Sustain here. We talked about how great Valerian was months ago, how insane she was. I think Pridwin had her down at like tier 3 or something. I was like, you are high, right? So she's insane. We're going to be coming out with a build guide for her. She's got cheat death with her S3. The amount of sustain that she does with the barrier generation is insane because she doesn't need to take turns to keep those barriers going. Actually, she needs to take less turns because those barriers happen when your teammates act. It's an insane character. Also, Discovery, if you haven't heard yet, the buffs that she gives are in a determined order, which makes her very good for a lot of these cleave setups. You can use her as an anchor. What I mean by that, the buffs go attack buff, defense buff, speed buff, crit chance buff, crit damage buff, meaning that if you don't have attack buff and that character starts their turn, they will always get attack buff. So if you're trying to cleave someone in PvP, you have a really fast Lily, an incredibly fast Messiah, and you want to get attack buff on your Messiah, but Lily doesn't give attack buff, Messiah doesn't give attack buff, and you're not outspeeding your Lily with like Freya, you can have Valerian there as your cheat death threshold for your Messiah, and as Messiah starts his turn and as Lily starts her turn, they will guaranteed get attack buff. So you're going to be getting a guaranteed attack buff Messiah S3 just because Valerian exists as long as you have her skill 3 maxed out, so she starts in hazy form right away. Crazy character. Sonia is an exceptionally strong character, the highest sustained character in the game. You just build her really, really fast with some health, and as long as she takes turns, she's gonna be healing you 8k, 10k HP to a couple characters just for going every single turn, and she self-pushes herself with her S1. She's got a revive. Can't say anything bad about her. Now, if you're looking for King cleansing and the immunity buff, we talked about Ling Lo on our tier list a while ago. Being able to get immunity and put that on your team is incredibly powerful in a lot of situations. You'll be able to use this to just block a variety of debuffs aimed at your team in both PvE as well as PvP scenarios. Being like, oh, I'm about to take defense break, speed down, push back from the enemy, and something else. And she just goes, one turn immunity. Sorry, fam. And also, I'll heal you up, right? So she's very good in that situation. And she can also extend the duration of buffs with her S2 as well. Very strong cleanser. Out of cleansing, she's the best cleanser here if you're fighting against debuffs. Bam. If you want buffs, Valerian with the cheat death, fast sustain with revive, Sonia, and then straight up buff city, anti-debuff city, Ling Lo. So they're all great characters there. These ones here, we'll quickly go through these ones. Rahu, just a strong guy, very strong tank down sort of deep, just guy, right? He's in the back of the line. He's holding you up right at the end of the day. He's got a lot of stuff for you to do. Very strong character. If you ran into him in PvP, you'll know what I'm talking about. You killed everyone else, right? Maybe you lost 1 or 2 dudes and you just can't get through the Rahu. Yeah, very strong there. Rosa, listen, not quite as good as Masya because she takes like a little bit more time with her follow-up attacks. But if you set her up, she's just going to do a giga damage. Giga damage is Rosa, right? Rosa's just giga damage. She's one of the next characters to work on my account for single target damage. AoE as well, but a lot of follow-up stuff there. Ziada's fantastic for PvE and Doki Doki, even though she did just get her interaction changed with being able to take off like that Berserk buff and give it to herself. She can't do that anymore. It doesn't matter. One thing I'll say about her though is that you need to heavily invest into her, not just like, oh, you need to level her skills. But on top of that, you need to make sure that you have a team that can give her tons and tons and tons of buffs. So if you're looking for someone to pair with your Zenyatta, right? Buff extension from Linglo is very good. Just look for ways to get your teams just multiple different kinds of buffs. Valerian's very good for that as well because she can give attack, defense, speed, crit chance, and I think if you get all of those, she can do crit damage as well. So she's not going to give you all 5, but she can fill in the gaps of the ones that you are missing in your team, right? If you have Lily, well, Lily has speed buff. Put that finger down first. Lily has speed buff, and then you can do like defense buff with Freya, reproc attack buff, and then extend them all with Linglo or something. And then Valerian will fill in the gaps there for you and bring like a debuffer, and she'll be able to do a lot of cool stuff for you there. This one here, all right, this is the first big grievance. Dena as well as Gray. Listen, I understand early on, Gray is very easy and very good for your account. He gives crit chance buff, very nice. Very nice. Before we get any gear on our characters, he lets us crit more often. We like that. But later on, you're already hitting 80, 90, 100% crit rate on your gear. The crit rate buff doesn't matter that much. Sure, you can transition him more towards like a DPS character that defense breaks for you, but you really don't gain the full benefit of that crit buff anymore. Whereas someone like Dena, who's he's sharing the tier with here, listen, Dena's got defense break for you. She's got vulnerability for you. And then she's got her own unique debuff that gives like, what is it? I forget. It's got like a blood rose. I forget the name of it, but it gives you basically bonus attack mods when people crit the enemy with her own debuff on them, which is just, it's just awesome because she's scaling her damage based off of your damage character. You don't have to build her for damage. You just build her for fast, speed, effectiveness, survivability, and it helps you clear content so much faster. I would put Gray down, probably a hold here. I would leave Dena in this tier all on her own. Dena's basically the SR version of Kloss, which is a heck of a thing to say considering Kloss is just that good. Freya, I would put Freya up in tier 0 and then put Lily in her own god tier. But Freya's insane. She's a walking passive. Any buffs that are applied to characters on your team from anybody, not just Freya, push you up. Anybody doing debuffs on your team, push the enemy back. I used her very early on in PvE and PvP scenarios with like a fast Dena. Dena defense breaks, does a bunch of different debuffs, and then all of those shove the enemy back. You can cleave them that way. So Freya's insane. She does have a little bit of cleansing, but the cleansing isn't really going to save you that much with those Dreamweave stacks. She can block, you know, 1 or 2 every once in a while, but if the enemy's trying to hit you with 3, 4, 5, 6 debuffs, that's not going to work very well for you there. She also does have that very funny PvP build right now with one of the shells. I forget the name of the shell, but it makes you do percentage max HP damage. You can build your Freya for crit, and because her S3 hits multiple times, each of those hits will do percentage max HP damage and it'll crit, and you'll do an absolute crap ton of damage when you're Freya S3. So if you're looking for a funny PvP build, you build her a little bit fast, and then instead of just giving her like HP and defense on the right side, just give her some crit chance and put her on that shell, and just she can cleave your opponents for you as well. So she's very good there. We have Hellkid down here in tier 0.5, and honestly, I would put Hellkid up in tier 0 because he would be the offensive sustain character. He does do damage. He's got attack as his scaling stat for his barrier, and then very similar to like Linglo being able to block debuffs with 1 turn immunity, his special barrier blocks all debuffs as well. I don't know why he is tier 0.5 here. And then on top of that, his S1, while that barrier is applied, is a 100% chance to stun somebody, which is crazy good. He also applies attack down and also refreshes the barrier there. So if you're looking for like a damage dealing, debuffing sustain unit, Hellkid is very powerful. If you're going to put him in the sustain role, this is where he belongs. He belongs up there. He is that good. Mia, personally, honestly, I would probably leave tier 0.5 empty and just put her down here. Put her down here with Chiaki, all right? She does a little bit of everything. She's got some pushback. She's got some cleanse. She's got some strip. She's got some cooldown reduction. She's got a little bit of everything. The main thing that does make her nice, and the real reason why maybe she's probably actually better than just Chiaki, is her passive on her S1, where you take 5% less damage for every buff on you. And that's not just for her, it's for every character in your party. So if you're doing like a heavy buff team with like Zenyatta or You have someone like Valerian in there as well, or just anyone who's going to give you a bunch of buffs. You have like 3 buffs. That's going to be 30% damage reduction, which is very, very good. But the downside there is that strips exist, characters are fast, they cycle off those buffs probably faster than anyone else can put them back on. And so when you're farming different PvE content or PvP in general as well, those things are going to fall off. And that's going to be a weak point for your team where they're just going to hit you really hard. You lost all that mitigation that you're depending on because she's in your party, and you're not going to have a good time there. Whereas someone like Chiaki can put that up, and she gives her own little damage mitigation on her skill as well here, where it gives her this Origami Guardian. When attacked by a skill, consumes a stack and decrease damage taken by 35%. She'll put this up on your whole party, which is pretty cool. So you can guaranteed at least block the next couple of hits. You don't care how fast your teammates are cycling around. She's just gonna be okay in that regard. So Chiaki might be, you know, something to think about there if you're kind of like looking at Mia and you're like, I'm not really sure who I should be using. That is who I would think about there. Chiaki's actually a little bit better than they say here, and I think Mia's a little bit worse. But what have you there. Borgny, as me and the boys like to say, it's Borgny time. I'm Borgnian, all right, out there. This man in PvP, yeah, 100% tier 0 PvP. I know, understand this is the generic PvE tier list. If you have him up in, yes, okay, this is where he belongs. He's up here with Rahu. If you ever played PvP, he's just an absolute bundle of stats. And if you build him, you want to probably put him on, is it Unbreakable? No, whatever one gives you immunity. You can put him on Unbreakable too, but you already have enough HP, it don't really matter. But you put him on the one that gives you immunity, because one of the only ways for your boarding to die right away is to get defense broken and cleaved or something. Generally, if you run into Borgny, you don't kill him and he hits that S3, it's got full strip on it and it does a tremendous ass load amounts of damage. So he's a crazy good character, and he's just really good in that regard. As far as PvE goes, he's fine. He's kind of held up and crushed up by the fact that he's got that strip. But those were mainly the big movers there. Mio is a fantastic character with all these other CC characters, and then the rest of these are just kind of fine. Any outliers that I see floating around down here, the last one I think was going to be Rin the Unbowed. Any other outliers though? I mean, Kraken being tier 2 and Lilith being tier 2 for generic stuff, fine, but they're god tier in PvP. The rest of these seem okay. As far as generic tier list stuff here going, I don't see any other outliers. We do want to touch on Leon real quick. I don't know why Leon's rated 0.5 in PvP. That's absolute fucking copium. Anyway, she got moved down probably because of the buff to Terramaton, where like pushbacks don't matter that much. She's just not that great at endgame Terramaton. You're either doing one of two things. You're trying to kill the arm really fast so you can not get smacked to death by the left arm, or just kill the body really fast. And you use a conjunction of pushback with turn steal meter as well as single target damage to do that. And she just kind of fails in both regards now, where her S3 doesn't push back and turn steal as much, and then her S2 being random, you might leave the arm alive, or you might not kill the body in time, then you die. So that's kind of whatever there. Then we have Lilith, Kraken, both god tier in PvP. Kraken very good in Doki Doki as well. Some people like to use Kraken over Kazuya the Reverie. I like Kazuya the Reverie a little bit faster. You can turn cycler a little bit quicker. You just need to land that sleep and then just kind of move on with your life. And then in PvP, she's absolutely insane, up there with Marvel. Being able to just 2-turn sleep people with ES1 in PvP is a banana sandwich. Doki Doki's gonna be a more endgame oriented character. I know a lot of players have access to her right now and just don't use her. That's okay, it'll be okay. This character right here, Tsukiyomi, is being done dirty, although she is tier 0 in PvP. She's an absolute monster. Fast support that also does an ass truck of damage because she is defense scaling. She can also help your survivability with the artisan shell for PvE as well. You can use her as like a temporary healer of sorts, which is something I do to clear content where you just don't have any real sustain, right? You might have Valerian for a little bit of HP berries, but those big hits will threaten to kill you, and you can get a nice defense barrier from artisan on someone like Tsukiyomi or Hoyen or Holden, I mean, and it's absolutely insane. The rest of these characters, yeah, they're trash, all right? So make sure you come back. Let me know what you think about this tier list. I think it's pretty expansive out there. There are a couple things that I would change up here, but I hope I explained it to your ability out there so you know what the characters you want to be building are next. Make sure you hit that sub button. I'll catch you guys and girls in the next one.